Touch football is a variant of American football in which the basic rules are similar to those of the mainstream game, but instead of tackling players to the ground, the person carrying the ball need only be touched by a member of the opposite team to end a down. The game is usually played by amateurs on a recreational basis. Major variants of touch football include one-hand or two-hand touch, each of which dictates the number of hands a defensive player must touch the ball carrier with in order to end a down. Rules, depending on the skill of the players, the available playing field, and the purpose of the game. The rules other than the tackling aspect may remain mostly the same or vary considerably from traditional American football. Touch football can be played by teams as few as 2 or as many as 11 on each side. Usually, games consist of teams of 4 to 7. Positions in touch football are far less formal than its more organized counterpart. While some games roughly follow conventions, more often, all players will be considered eligible receivers, and there are usually no running backs. There may or may not be a snapper. If there is not, the quarterback initiates play by hovering the ball above the line of scrimmage and pulling it backward to simulate a snap. Generally, in touch football, nearly every play is a passing play, whereas run plays and pass plays tend to be well balanced in organized football. Some games will also implement a blitz count, or a period of time that must elapse after the snap before the defense may cross the line of scrimmage in order to attempt to tackle the quarterback. The count thus gives the quarterback time to complete a pass in the absence of effective blocking. Other games will not use a count and thus blocking becomes important. Conversely, in the presence of a blitz count, there is also often a QB sneak rule, which prevents the quarterback from taking unfair advantage of the blitz count by preventing the quarterback from crossing the line of scrimmage before the blitz count is finished. Because of these rules, passing plays are far more common than running plays in touch football. Along with the size of the teams, the size of the field can vary considerably. In a park or spring practice situation, a full-sized field may be available, but many games are played in the front and back yards of suburban and rural village neighborhoods, where the whole field may not be much more than 10 to 30 yards long. In most of these situations, there are no yard lines, requiring some change in the definition of a first down. Instead of requiring that a team advance the ball 10 yards, sometimes 2 pass completions result in a first down. Another option is to eliminate first downs entirely, so that a team gets 4 chances to score. This process is most desirable on shorter fields, when it is desired for an odd number of players to play. It is common to allow one player to be an all-time quarterback player. This player will always be on the offense of the kicking team, switching sides throughout the game. This is often better known as a steady quarterback or steady Q. When this occurs, there is usually no blitz count and the all-time quarterback is usually never allowed to cross the line of scrimmage. Another common variation is the elimination of the field goal and extra point kick. This is usually due to the absence of goal posts and tees on the field, as well as due to poor kicking skill by the participants. Some games eliminate kicking altogether, directing the teams to start each possession after a touchdown at the 20-yard line, as if a kickoff and touchback had just occurred. Other players prefer to change the kickoff into a throw-off or a punt-off. Scoring and game timing are much different in touch football than its more organized counterpart. For simplicity, touchdowns are usually worth 1 point and no other scoring is counted. In a much lesser used variation, a touchdown is worth 6 points, and if the player who scored the touchdown can progress in the other direction from the end zone in which he had just scored back to the opposite end zone without being touched, it counts as a 2-point conversion. The former scoring method does not allow for other scoring types such as safeties. There is usually no game clock and the game ends when one opponent has reached 10 touchdowns or 100 points. Touch football is generally played by amateurs and is popular with adolescents, teenagers, or children. During Thanksgiving, many Americans are known to play in turkey bowls, games of touch or tackle football between family and friends. During off-season spring workouts, many high school and college teams play touch football to work on passing formations and plays. Variable rules. First touch. This rule controls the action of the offensive team's current quarterback, and requires that the blocking countdown rule not be in use. When teams are even, a shift between two offensive players begins the play. It takes a touch from a defender assigned to the quarterback to stop his initial forward progress and determine where the ball will be thrown from. The assigned defender is stuck to the quarterback, unable to act as a pass defender or hinder the quarterback in his search of a receiver. Depending on the group, first touch can refer to the quarterback's ability to run or walk after the shift. For example, one group may refer to first touch as the ability for the quarterback to run after the shift, get touched, and still throw the ball. Another group may use the rule to mean that the quarterback has the ability to walk a power walk forward, get touched, and throw. The first variation favors a game with many players, while the second may be best for games where there aren't many players. Another addition to this rule is the two-man touch, which penalizes the defense for being unaware of their assignments and teammates by making all players who touch the active quarterback stick to him, removing a defender from the field temporarily. This rule is commonly and informally referred to first touch, the result of players creating another past tense verb for touch. Kickoff. Change of possession after scoring is often accompanied by rules determining where the ball is thrown from as opposed to actually kicking, since throwing offers more control to players who may be playing in street-accessible areas and don't wish to chase a ball through traffic. When the kickoff style is open to variance after each score, the desired rules are called out and whichever is heard first is the accepted rule. When the rules are agreed on before the start of a game and are made to be steady throughout, they are referred to as auto. The most accepted auto rules are half-court. In hands, this offers a rule that gives advantages to both the kicking and receiving teams. No half-court. In half-court, the ball is kicked off at the halfway mark in the field. In no half-court, the ball is expected to be thrown from the kicking team's goal line. Half-court is practical when playing on a long field, but it puts the kicking team closer and potentially limits the maneuverability of the receiving team. Half-court is preferred by kicking teams as it dramatically shortens the amount of space and time between the teams. No in hands. In hands means that the ball will be thrown to any specific person, usually at the kicker's discretion. No in hands means that the ball will be thrown in the general area of the team, but without a target. In hands saves the receiving team the trouble of chasing a bobbling ball, and is preferred. First down. Rules on first downs vary depending on the playing group and field size. In shorter fields, it may be impractical or unnecessary to create landmarks which would reset the downs, as 4 downs should be all the time needed to go from one end to the other. However, longer fields may need a halfway marker which, when reached, would reset the downs. Multiple markers can be used in this way depending on the field length. As stated above in the article, a number of completed passes may also result in a first down, if the teams desire it so. It is uncommon to see both length-based and pass-based rules in use simultaneously. hand touch. As the name suggests, this rule determines the number of hands that must land on an offensive player simultaneously to stop the play. First touch situation. One-hand touch is often used with younger players, as two-hand touch demands greater dexterity. When used against more mature players, one-hand touch puts more pressure on the offense to duke and misdirect the defense. A variant called rough touch is also sometimes used, in which the defensive player must place both hands on the ball carrier with sufficient force to lightly shove him in order to stop the play. This is somewhat subjective, but tends to reduce the frequency of disputed touches.